It's good to see you. Um, so we're going to go over the astrology for your week and try to make sense of some of the stuff that's going on for you. Um, this is the chart of the moment, and I have it set for an island out in the Pacific Ocean, but that's neither here nor there. The sky is still the sky. I'm going to go ahead and move the chart up a little bit because I like to cheat and nobody said I couldn't. So here I go. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little more. Sometimes the easiest way is to just dive into this table down here at the bottom. Excuse me for that. If I just cut the chart down here in the last like 25% of the page, and over on the right-hand side, you'll see cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs and where those planets are in fire signs, earth signs, air signs, and water signs. However, we see the moon right there. Let me see if I can't zoom in a little bit more. There we go. And the moon and Venus are squaring each other like this. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's impossible to conquer whatever this is. It just means that our feelings are, especially look, Venus is in Virgo over here. Our emotions are having a challenge with what's showing up in the present. However, it can also be a Venus that represents Libra as well. I got to take these off because they're hurting me. I really need them too. Okay. Our emotions having a challenge in a relationship, our emotions having a challenge with our resources. Maybe our emotions are having challenges with both, and we don't quite know how we feel about things. I say to you guys all the time that the moon right here, the moon will always move. So please, unless you absolutely have to make a decision today, maybe today's not the day to make decisions. Maybe today's just the day to feel. You know what I mean? Sorry, I have orchestra music in the background. And that's okay, with Venus, Virgo and Venus together, it's a good day for making a pros and cons list. It could also be a good day to journal, look through some pictures, clean out some old paperwork or something like this. Maybe go searching for old paperwork. You might find that the frustration that you feel internally, like if you need more proof and you just don't have the proof that you need. The other portion of the moon squaring Venus in this way can also indicate that your logical sense is getting in the way of your intuitive self. And let's not forget that the South Node is in Virgo. That's not the area we're supposed to be making choices from right now. We're supposed to be doing it from a sense of Pisces. So Pisces, on the other hand, let me see if I can't back out of this. Ooh. So let me snatch grab this. Like I'm going to snatch grab a ferret. Like, get over here. All right. South Node is in Virgo right there. And we're supposed to be looking towards the North Node. The North Node in Pisces at the 18th degree right there. It can indicate that perhaps we've recently just had a tough experience of some kind. It could have also been a dream of some kind, maybe an interaction with another person. Oftentimes, Pisces energy wants to do what's fair, and what's just and what's right. And sometimes that can get in the way just as much as it can help. So I don't know your world. I just work here. And we do know that Pisces energy would hold the place that says, hey, we need to do what's right for the greater good, not necessarily for ourselves. So it is a place of selflessness. And it is a place of sacrifice. You know, if one person is laying down their life for their brother in some way, that's where this place would be. Okay, it is supposed to hold compassion, but it's not necessarily compassion without logical sense. Okay, it's a toughie because this place of Pisces, it includes to dissolve the self, to dissolve the self in the sense of dissolving the ego. And what I want is not necessarily the best thing. And in my personal case, what's been hitting me, because Heather and I, during the new moon, right, in Virgo, the eclipse that we just had in Virgo, you know, we chose to journal and write down all of the things that have been hitting us in the past week. Like, we made a list. We put it up on the board, and then I wrote it all down. And this is going to be the topic until February 5th, 2026, when Saturn shuts that portal gate. So a big part of my stuff has to do with therapists. Again, like, when am I never seeing a therapist? So I've been very determined since 2009. No, 2008. I've been very determined since 2008. Like, really, it's the Kramer determination. My cousin said it yesterday. Oh, I know the Kramer determination. It's this strong determination that says, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to learn about this as much as I can. I'm going to put myself in a state of discipline as much as I can around this. And so sitting with these therapists, one right after the other, saying the same story about myself, one right after the other, feeling the feelings of shame that go along with it, one right after the other. And it's not a fun place. It's not a fun place for me to choose to just take a day off, curl into bed, and detach from the rest of the world. It's okay for me to do that once. You know, I can't make it a habit because life must go on. And if you have also been needing to face something about yourself in a way that creates this dissolving of an ego right there, one that says, we need you to accept your whole self. Your whole self. We cannot subtract anything about ourselves. You know, warts and all, we need to be able to expose ourselves. We need to be able to face without avoidance. Because I think that's what the new moon was doing. It's kind of like, of course, Virgo loves that nonsense, right? Look at the truth. However, it looks different when you actually do look at the truth. And you turn your whole self and you stare at it in the eyes. And you say, I'm ready. I'm ready. It's, you know, it's not a fun place. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a fun place to dissolve the ego. And so that ownership of kind of those things that come afterwards. The moon right now is opposite the sign of Gemini, and the moon right now is in the early degrees of Sagittarius, and it would ask for us to reach outside of our knowledge base of where we're at right now. And just like me, you may have been pitching into this area of your life for a while now. And whatever level you're at with this topic, it's going to ask you for more. You know, it's going to ask you for more. The moon squaring Proserpina over here. And we can see that angle, that red one right there, the moon squaring Proserpina, and Proserpina squaring Uranus, and the moon opposite Uranus. See that triangle? The rest of that triangle looks like this, you guys, okay? Well, I gotta find the right degree because it would hit like right about there. And this is why we call it a square. The blue lines are silent in the actual map, on the map, but it does form a square right there. That's the full square in the sky. That's how we would read it in translation. So the red part of the square says we are challenged by some knowledge that we have from the past, and it is a truth that perhaps it's really tough to look at because it's going to ask us to do that Pisces thing. It's going to say, take a knee, and you look at your higher power. You look at your mentor, you look at your therapist, and you go, I've taken a knee on this thing over and over again, 1133 on the clock. And, how many times do I need to take a knee to this? And the universe says, what makes you think that this is not wholly yourself? What makes you think that this thing becomes totally removed? Pisces says we need to look at the whole. And this is a part of us. We have to own all of it, all of it. So again, we take a knee that says I must sacrifice, maybe even the way I look at myself. From here on out, I must own this part. I must be responsible for it. I must form a discipline around it. Again, I must learn more about it. And that Gemini energy, down here with Uranus in the first degree of Gemini, I circled Phaethon as well. It's spelled like this. Phaethon, that is an asteroid. The Uranus says, surprise, we need to hand something off with Proserpina. We are changing one to one. We're changing one thing for another thing. You've worn that inner ego portion of yourself long enough. Now we upgrade or we downgrade, depending. But this is wholly yourself. And what's to do, Pisces energy wants what's fair for everyone. But Pisces also wants justice. Want justice for what the other person said, what they did, the circumstances. And this isn't going to be the case. It has to do with the self. It has to do with self-responsibility. Yeah. And so it's not a good time. I would also encourage you that if you are struggling with any kind of mental health, please go to a professional. I am not one of those. You don't have to blow up my email and tell me your whole story. Just make an appointment and get her done. Just do it. If you need to go to the hospital, go to the hospital. Go to the hospital. One of my largest snapping points in my spiritual recovery was when a recovering alcoholic looked me in the face and he said, look at your pride. Look at your ego. You have so much of it, you can't even cry right now. You're biting your lip. You're straining with everything you have just not to let the tears flow in front of a stranger. What is that? It's nothing but ego. Sort of asking that question, are you human or not human? Because to be human is to be wholly human. That whole human self right there. Wow, I didn't mean to go off like that. But there's some wisdom, perhaps. Looking at that square point between the moon and Venus, what has come before in the past and what must come for the future. That was the other thing that I wanted to bring up. Our All right, so Amba asked a very good question in the astrology part that I did for the new moon eclipse, the solar eclipse. And even though I went off on my usual Miriam's talking for a really long time spiel, the question she said was, that's all grand, Miriam, but what is, if Mercury is remember the Lord of the solar eclipse, because the eclipse was in the sign of Virgo. If Mercury is the Lord of the eclipse and Uranus is its overseer, then what is Uranus asking us to do with the new moon eclipse? So thank you, Amba, for that question. And also, I want to say thank you to Lupita Rodriguez. Thank you very much, my beautiful friend, for sending me that donation. Thank you. Thank you so much for sending me your love. Amba's question regarding this, I think, has to do with the thoughts that we have concerning some of the hardest and toughest things that we can recognize in ourselves. And maybe even in the leadership positions that we hold and that we have. And the tough question is, are you going to make a decision that is selfish and made for yourself? Or are you going to make one of those leadership kinds of decisions that takes an objective step back from everything and say, am I able to remove my own ego, right? Step way back and just mentally say, I'm putting Miriam in the group as well, right? It's one of the things that was kind of a big hype a few years ago, was telling each and every person we saw, don't forget, you are also part of the family. Don't forget, you are also part of the work team, because sometimes we remove ourselves from it. But to be a leader means that you throw yourself in there. It's just sort of like a placeholder that you say, okay, here's my team, or here's my family, and here's what I've got. And even though I have a personal thing and a personal vendetta or a personal emotion or something of that ilk, are you able to make a leadership type choice or decision that throws you in with the bunch, but also is what is good for all? Are you going to make that kind of choice? Or are you going to selfishly take the moment and snatch it for yourself? So with Uranus at the first degree right here, I think that's the point. And if this is the first challenge, I definitely don't want to know what happens when Uranus moves to the second degree. Because, man, this first one's a good punch in the face. Right now, Uranus is in, let me put a green line. The angle that Uranus is to Mars, we're in a yod position to that Mars that has just entered into Scorpio. And it's still pretty tight. That's pretty tight. A 0 degree 39 on this end in with Neptune and Aries in Aries. So this is an individual moment of sitting down with Pisces. So there's the one-on-one with yourself, right? You could almost even say the one-on-one with your God or your higher power or whoever you turn to outside of yourself. Uranus is over here at 1 degree 16 minutes in Gemini. And there we have Uranus. And then up here we have Mars in Scorpio at 3 degrees 37 minutes. Now, Mars is moving away from the yod. A yod is, it's called the finger of God. That's what yods are in the chart. And yods are special and difficult at the same time, Because on the one hand, which would be, this part, Mars is wanting to push, right? And on the one hand, I have Neptune in Aries. And I know I have a spiritual gift. I know I have a spiritual calling. I know that as an individual, I have my things. And then on the other hand, I have Uranus in Gemini that says, the other person or the other situation is asking you to make a change. Could come on very fast, very swift, out of nowhere. In the other astrology video I did talk with you guys about the word spin. That people will be putting a spin on things, right? And to be watchful and wary, especially on social media or on your AI, for the types of spin that people are going to create. They may just come up out of nowhere with a spin that you weren't expecting. But that's what we're looking for, is the spin. Are you going to spin with yourself? Are you going to just, sometimes you come at people and you're like, hey, I want to talk about you with something, with you about something. And all of a sudden they just got to make it. You ever hear a Gemini who's underdeveloped? And they just start going, oh, yeah, well, I had a rock in my tire. And so I was kind of freaking out about the rock in the tire. So I called 17,000 people, to try to hear their opinions on what I should do about the rock in my tire. And so it made me late because I had to pick up my daughter at school. And, there was like her soccer thing and all of this stuff. And by the time I cooked dinner and whatever, the spin. It could be something on the other end of the spin, right? One that is in like a 7 of Wands sort of position. I work my whole life. I do the things with all the things, and I try to breathe, and I breathe in and I breathe out. And what more do you expect of me? And Virgo, Venus Virgo may be asking a very direct question. A Venus in Virgo is black and white. You either did or you didn't. There's either fact or it's fiction. There's not a whole lot that, if a Virgo cannot stand anything, it's a liar. You don't lie to a Virgo because they've already seen right through it. They've seen all the words. They've already picked it apart. They've broken it all out into their original context and where those words originated from. They could probably tell that statement to you better than you could say it yourself. So when Mars comes in and tips off like a basketball or a football and they spin it, it's either a yes or a no. It's either a catch or a fall. You either got tackled or you ran it to the end. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. You either did or you did not. If you did, you go over there with team A. If you did not, you go over there with team B. That's it. Virgo's whole point is to categorize. It's to customize, but it's also to categorize. Right? Pisces says, ethically, are you in with this? Because Scorpio is not going to allow you to live with something. It will haunt you. If your ethical stance with your Scorpio placement is the one place in your chart that you demand purity, right? You don't pour gasoline into a fuel cell or into a fuel tank with sugar in it. That Scorpio going to be real mad. It's going to let you know right up front. Period. So Pisces is over here sort of saying, if we're going to put this thing in the space, in the void, is it pure enough to go in there or not? Right? Virgo's asking the question because it's yes or no. Now, if you're not willing to own that, yes, maybe in 1987, I put like a teaspoon, maybe a half a teaspoon of sugar in the sugar tank. Because Virgo doesn't care about the truth, the validity, and sometimes not even Scorpio. They just want to know so we can get this thing moving, yes or no. You either did or you didn't. You have evidence or you do not. That's it. So we see where Uranus would create this idea of a spin like that. And what I think Uranus is asking us is, it has to do with this question, and it may very well have to do with the connections we make, because it's in Libra. I'm going to write that down like this. The connections. Yes, the connections. Yes. Libra is the place of putting, it's sort of like the quality of fitting one end of a pipe into another pipe. If you have ever taken a plug, like a DIS 1147, if you've ever taken a plug and you've tried to fit it into the socket, right? Depending on the quality of the prongs, depending on the socket, it's either a go or no-go station. That's it. Libra is saying, okay, I'm going to put this into the here. Does it fit or does it not fit? Because Libra is actually quite dry. Okay. Libra doesn't have a whole lot of flavor to it. It's not like that. We're trying to put connections together. And if you're trying to squeeze and turn and twist and the prongs are all bad or something's wrong with the socket, it's not gonna be a go station. It's just not. It's just not. And then what we find is in moments of truth like this, when Libra and the mind get involved with Venus down here, it's asking about the quality of those connections. What are the qualities of those connections? And you may find that your mind might have been forcing something like, dang, I've been doing this function for this long and not really owning it, looking at it, staring at it, because whatever this hidden thing is, it's not a testing moment. It's more of a, are you willing to own something moment and just own it and then fix it? The heart is involved with Venus. The heart is involved. And if I were willing to look ahead just a little bit, I mean, yeah, if I make some lines like this, those of you that follow my content pretty well. Okay, so you have, I mean, it's widening. This is a sextile between Venus and Mars. And usually between Venus and Mars, it is a competition, but it's a this or that. And sometimes it's two things that we want to keep or two things that we need. If I did a midpoint on it, we'd find ourselves somewhere here around Ceres. Maybe even a little less than Ceres. Maybe in between Neptune and Ceres. Yeah, looks like an elephant. Today, the sun is opposite Neptune, so we have a light that's sort of shining through regarding a Libra sort of topic. A Libra topic. Anyway, I hope that answers Amba's question about Mercury's, like what Mercury is doing right now. So personally, I think that as Mercury, let me erase all of that. As Mercury, which is right here at 15 degrees of Libra, begins to move forward and away from the sun, eventually it will hit that point where it turns around and it goes retrograde for a few weeks. We'll get the shadow periods and the retrograde motion, and then it'll go direct again. So it may go back and forth like this over and over a little bit through Libra, but then eventually Mercury is going to move over into Scorpio. And with Mercury and Scorpio, when we have the ability to take charge of our words, we may find a lot of people either stepping up to bat to actually put some words into powerful action. There may be a powerful confrontation in the sense that words will right? Kind Because if each individual is getting this cross check with Neptune right now, I mean, I can't gauge the quality of what the other person is saying. The only thing I have is fact or fiction right there. So by the time a Mercury situation shows up in Scorpio, it's either going to be a yes, let's start moving on this, and either you're ready or you're not. You see what I mean? It's going to be like a yes or a no. And here we have the connection of Uranus. It's going to be in a spot where that first in conjunct, it's going to go like this, right there where Mars is sitting right now. You know, it might be somebody trying to get a job, and on the phone, the people say, are there any medicines that you're taking right now? Because we're going to do a urine sample for the job. Is there anything we need to know for this urine sample? And the Mars in this position right now is probably saying, hey, knock, 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 make sure you have all your doctor's records and everything that you need involved, because more than likely by the time Mercury gets from here to there, like right now, you may be having all the ideas. Don't forget the ideas. Don't just lay down the idea or the book and then walk away from it. You need to be able to pick it up, right? So that when that moment comes, it's a green for go and there's no problems whatsoever. You can check that box. I'm good to go. Everything's kosher, right? Because by the time that Mercury gets to this other side over here, and Mars could be getting there first, I'd have to do my homework on that and then show it to you later. But both of them are heading in this other direction right over here. This could be the need of the family. It could be the needs of the father. It could be the needs of your authority. Like, I need to pick something up and get going with it. The other situation may need you to arise and arrive in a way. And the way that Virgo kind of works is, if you're not honest on the forefront, we don't correct the thing right the first time, then by the time we get down here where the whole team needs it, or, you know, we just want to iron out small details by that point. Virgo, like if it's a fail, let's say it's a fail, and it's a big 0, like that. Virgo would be the first one to say, I told you so. You should have just said the truth on the front end. I told you so. I told you so. This Capricorn area, that's where karma is played out. Either you did the work and you're ready to go, or you didn't do the work and you're not ready to go. And of course, I can find the dates for when this topic here of Mercury in the 15th degree, right now it's at 15 degrees, 50 minutes of Libra, where it's testing the connection of something. And I'm not saying it's not going to be a hard road. It's going to be a hard road. If this moment is hard for you right now, just know where in your body it's happening. Also know the difficulty, like pair it with what needs to be done in the physical world. Keep track of it in your head and say, you know, this one hurts my heart chakra and my throat chakra. Because it really does. It hurts my heart chakra and my throat chakra. So I know that karmically, those are the two things I'm going to have to use. I'm going to have to break my own heart by using my voice. I'm going to be breaking my heart by using my voice. Now, if I have not chosen to break my heart and use my voice, by this point, that's where the negative karma is either going to amplify itself, or we're going to have a positive return just by telling the truth. Yeah? If not, when Uranus takes the quarter and spins it, right? Scorpio will be mad as hell, y'all, because Scorpio is going to be like, when I flip this light switch, you better have hooked that thing up because I intend to use this light. You don't do that, Scorpio is going to be the first one to hunt you down. Scorpio is the one, like with the book, and Scorpio is looking at you like, Light works, right? Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Because we're going to flip on this light. Scorpio's like, oh yeah. So I can flip on the light. Oh, sure. Yeah. Scorpio's like, okay. It's like dad, right? Go turn on the light. And everybody in the room goes, no, 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 no. Me and my brothers used to do that. No, dad, no. No, no, dad. No, dad. All right, you guys, that's some astrology. I'm going to move over to Gemini. Let me ponder my ponderings real quick. All right. So for those of you that are curious how my brain works, it moves real fast. I see the Uranus function is at 1 degree, right? So I'm quickly going all the way around the circle to find things that are plus or minus in a 10-degree orb of that 1 degree, because there's a relationship that is touching that Uranus in the sign of Gemini. So things that I see right off the bat is Priapus, and Priapus is this big D energy. It's this place where you want to push. It's in a semi-sextile, so it's helping. It's helping a little bit. I have no clue what that sound was. There's also this 10-degree mark in Aries, so you may feel a push, but it has to do with your identity and the role that you plan on playing. And it's kind of a wide orb. You see the 10 and the 1. There's kind of like 8 degrees and something in between that. So that's a little spaced out. Then I see this 0 degrees of Neptune that is touching it for sure in a sextile. The sextile there from Neptune to Uranus. And the relationship of that would speak about being a little bit confused when presented with a main situation, but you have to address it differently than you would in any other time. If usually you used a lot of masculine energy going after it, this Neptune Uranus might be saying, no, you can't do that this time. This time you have to come at it from a space of either a hybrid of the divine and masculine, or lean over to the divine feminine side and use divine feminine skills here. And when you're like me and Heather, we've been repeating it to each other over and over again. It's that boy cry wolf situation, right? And you get used to just hearing it and hearing it and hearing it, or just, you get used to it being in your life in some way, and it just becomes normalized in your life. And to revolutionize the way that you live with this thing that belongs to you, it's this place of confusion with that Neptune and Uranus. It's sort of like, okay, I know that I'm supposed to, but how? So that's what I'm going to put right here. How am I supposed to address this thing, right? So now I'm going to move up further, and I see that both Pluto and Pallas and Pluto are both in Aquarius. So Pallas at the 6 degree 47 minutes is touching Uranus, and it gives us about a 5 degree orb right there. So, we know that we must stand up and get a little ballsy with this thing. We got to be a little ballsy. We got to do it. A transformation of some sort. So to me, there's a lot of self-autonomy that's being requested right now. And we know that we must stand tall when we do this. Things must change. They cannot go on the way that they have been. Moving around the chart, I see that Vesta is over here, and she and her crew is in Sagittarius at 6 degrees, 5 minutes. And Vesta, I was watching TikTok last night, and they came out the gate with some of this Roman history regarding, they called them the Vestal Virgins. And man, these were children from 6 years old to 10 years old. So they were innocent. And they had to have a certain list of criterion. And the priests of the temple were keeping an eye on those families that had girls. And the girls had to be perfect without blemish. They had to, they represented Rome, because what they would do is they would go in, they would abduct the child, and then they would bring the child to the temple, and the child would never ever see their parents again. The child was to grow in the concepts of like 3 different concepts that supported Rome. And they were to remain a virgin for 30 years of their life. And that's a lot. It's a lot. So what these parents would do is when they had a little girl, they would send them far off into the countryside. They would take the girl and send them away to spare the girl's life. Now, these were Roman citizens. They had to be Roman citizens. And they were called Vestal Virgins. It was horrific. And apparently there was like, torture and stuff involved in this. I'm speaking about history now. You can look it up for yourself. They're called Vestal Virgins. So that's pretty severe. And so when I look at Vesta, yes, she does represent Virgo. She is the most Virgoan asteroid, that presents with the virgin type qualities. But she also represents, just like Virgo, the harvest, right? What must be harvested and brought in, what must be collected from. And when she goes in, she's a lot like an inspector. And she'll go down the list and be like, okay, she'll put on her little librarian glasses like this, and she'll walk into the room and she'll have her list, and she'll be like, okay, these are yes or no questions. Do you have a safety list of all the chemicals, that you have under the cabinet? It's either a yes or a no. You either do or you do not, right? If you do, she'll check. If you go to the next one on the list, she'll say, do you have enough supply of food for the next 2 months stored up in your larder? You either do or you do not. It's like a yes or no thing. And if you don't, Vesta, just like the priests in Rome, can be very judgmental. And there were punishments. There were punishments involved. So, since I really started diving into Vesta sometime last year, I keep an eyeball on her, because if an inspector is coming to inspect and you have enough a head start, you're going to clean things up. You know what I mean? You're going to get things like good to go so that you pass the inspection. And right now she's sitting at 6 degrees, 5 minutes of Sagittarius, which is in complete opposition to the Gemini energy right now, where Uranus is at. So this would sort of say she's going to change some things up. She may come in and she may say, this building was built in 1880 and the whole thing has to come down. We need to put up and build, recreate everything from the wheel, and build a different building that can house and home and, whatever. Okay. So just know that if this is a test moment, it has to do with purity, the purity of the product, which of course Scorpio is all in line with, because Scorpio is like, I don't want, the transformation over here. I don't want the transformation to have 2, teaspoons of sugar in the gas tank. It will not run that way. So in some parts, because Vesta has been in Scorpio this whole time and building up it's sort of like scanning what needs to be used for transformation. And she's been hanging out with Scorpio long enough to say, okay, Scorpio has told me all of the necessities that Scorpio needs to do the job. So now I'm in Sagittarius. Not only are we making a plan, but we are taking those steps to start moving forward in that plan. Does that make sense? Great. Let's go ahead and move forward. I'm going to change colors because we just reached the opposition point there with the moon and Vesta opposite the sign of Gemini. And I'm looking at Gemini right now for Gemini because I love them. Okay. We also have that 3 degrees, 37 minutes with Mars in Scorpio, right? And this is Scorpio sort of stepping up and saying, you, get over here. It's your turn. It's your turn. We're going to move you forward. Now, Gemini is in this angle here, and it's challenging, right? The angle to Gemini is challenging right now. It's challenging because whatever is individually needed, Gemini might have some issues with. Either Gemini has already formed opinions, Gemini has already listened to the gossip and been swayed, right? Or dissuaded. Gemini has, and it's gonna do with the Neptune quality right here in Aries. Are you doing what you're called to do? Is this your calling? Yes or no? Are you putting your personal power with your calling, Neptune, Aries? Is this who you are? Is this who you are? You see the question. A lot of people get nervous because some people with this Neptune Uranus thing is sort of like, I see what I am, but I don't know where I fit. I see what I need, but I don't know where to go. So the Gemini to the Mars may actually say, put your personal power in gear, Gemini, and go find what it is that you need to complete the chemical equation for gasoline. You don't know what your spiritual calling needs to get going? Question mark? And a lot of us that have been awakened, we know our calling. By now, we know our calling. The question is, are you ready to go? What else do you need? What else do you need to learn? Are you adequate? And I'll leave it right there. Going around the wheel, I see that Uranus placement again has a connection to the sun with the asteroid Karma. I'm over on the right, ladies and gentlemen. Both the sun and Karma are in Libra right now, okay? The sun is at 4 degrees, 49 minutes. Karma is at 3 degrees, 23 minutes. What's your connection to things look like? Libra, I have gotten to the point of understanding Libra, like once I could see it mentally and what it was trying to do. Everybody has a sink, right? You have access to a sink. Underneath the actual bowl of the sink, you should see pipes, the connection to pipes. Some of those valves and pipes brings water up to the faucet. Some of it goes down into the drain and exits the house. Now, the questions of connections and the value of those connections, I'm finding out with a lot of sadness that, like, I've questioned it for so long and I've thought I was strong enough. Miriam, to me, is always like really strong. And to know beyond a shadow of a doubt, to have several different doctors look me in the face. My body is responding to connections that are near me. My actual body disintegrates, and with certain chemicals, you need certain Libran connections. You cannot put certain chemicals like bleach inside of a balloon. When they make contact, the chemical with the side of the balloon, it ain't going to turn out right. It's not going to look good. Yeah. Some of the connections of Libra, let's say that you have fire. You have fire that is going up through a pipe, right? Like a propane type, propane and the ignition on your stove so that you have a little fire. If something is off with that connection, you could have a big boom, right? My mother was scared to death of it. My mother really freaked out with pressure cookers. They scared her. They scared her. Because if the connection in the seal was not correctly sealed on your little ninja foodie, right, then you could have some harm done. And that's where the contact comes into place. With Libra is that place of contact. If we push fuel with Scorpio through this pipe, what's going to happen? Will there be more like interactions and different types of relationships we don't want going on? And I'm finding out that people, the contact of certain people is making my body disintegrate. I haven't owned it up to this point. I don't like looking at it. I think I'm strong enough up here, but this doesn't have to do with my mind. It has to do with my physical self, which I ignore most of the time. In my head, I'm like 22, but that's not going to work anymore. Now I'm 48 and I have to look at it. I have to understand contact. When we make contact. And that's the question. The contact. You know where you're going to find that place of disillusionment, and that place that you want to run away from, and that place that you don't really want to look at? You want to go into your chart and you want to find out where Pisces is. I don't want to have that contact communication. I don't want to sit down and whatever, it's that sort of attitude too. I don't want to look at it. It's not really real. These are all conspiracy theories. Somebody else will do it. It's that sort of energy that sits in your Pisces house. And that's part of the problem, because we can't move forward with the calling, Neptune, with the calling. We cannot move forward until this is addressed. So this calling is not about you. I love saying that to myself. I love it. I am not that special. I'm not that special. I'm not that special. And this is the first time in over a decade I have to actually change my words and say, the reason I'm doing this is because I am that special. And it makes me feel weird and it makes me feel awkward. But the calling on our life is not about me, right? However, the gifts that I hold, it is my responsibility not just to hold them, but to use them. And to do that, I have to recognize how special my physical body is. I don't like doing that, right? Because my physical body has been used in bad ways. Others have used in bad ways, right? There's been shame attached to it in bad ways. I have tried to do things to myself in bad ways. I don't like looking at my body. I don't like others looking at my body. I told a therapist yesterday, I don't even like to be touched. I haven't wanted to be touched by anybody. I don't like hugs. I don't like kisses. I don't like touches. Don't touch me, not without permission. There's only been one person that I have accepted touch from in the past 10 years. That's it. And now I have to look at this and go, okay, Miriam, making contact. I don't like looking at the place of contact because that's where Libra sits. I don't mean to preach at you guys. That is not my goal. I'm trying to express how this is coming out in my human experience. Okay. The other place that has sort of a yes is this 8 degrees and 9 degrees. There we see Venus. We have Venus and the asteroid. It's called Proserpina. I like adding Proserpina. I gotta change that. Venus and Proserpina. Venus is at 9 degrees, 59 minutes, so it's about to swap, thank God. Proserpina is at 8 degrees, 46 minutes. So we're in the range of that plus or minus 10 degree orb. Now, Venus is actually saying to Proserpina, get ready, we're about to change over. I loved it when the drill sergeants in the army would do that. They'd go, change over, and everybody would flip on their back or on their stomachs or, change over. It was always like a song. But Venus is telling Proserpina, get ready, we're about to change over. Proserpina is the place of handing one thing in exchange for another thing. And this may also be, depending if you have Venus, wherever Venus and Virgo is in your chart right now, look at the house, because that's where it's going to be affected. And I think it's kind of crazy that for wherever this island is, it's kind of like, yeah, we're changing I mean, if this is a nation, you may be changing over software. You may be changing over, I know that currency right now is a big deal. Virgo has things to do with public health. It has things to do with organization and your schedule. The place of Virgo has, and it all depends on your chart. Like it all depends on your chart. If Virgo is over the earth houses, then get ready for something physical to change. If they're over the air houses, then get ready to not just communicate with others. For the first time, you may hold a piece of paper like this that has an actual plan. And you'll have the authority just by holding the proof in the paper. The air houses is about communication, but it's also about perspective and thought, opinions versus not opinions, decisions, what our brain wants to ingest. You may be getting instead of using a flip phone, Venus may say, hey, that ain't going to work for your calling. We need to get you a regular iPhone or a Samsung phone. Okay. Virgo can also talk about clean living, clean eating, minimalism. If it's over your second house, this might have to do with clothing. Anyway, if Virgo is over the fire houses like this is absolutely 110 gabillion% about either Virgo taking leadership in some sort of way, Virgo being the initiator, Virgo being the inspiration giver. And if you've ever had a Virgo in your face trying to inspire you, it's going to look something like this. What you doing over there? Why you touching that? Virgo's going to come in with fire energy, and they're going to want to either A, equip you with knowledge so that you can do it for yourself. Virgo wants self-autonomy with others because it means Virgo doesn't have to double check them and do it for them. Virgo does not want to be a babysitter. Okay, so if someone is doing something off, Virgo's going to pop up and be the one. Virgo might be in charge of equipping everyone else. Virgo might be in charge of handing everybody their phone. Virgo may hold the inventory, but also have to be the emissary and the carrier. You see what I mean? If you're in a gym, right, and Virgo is going to take over that cycling class, you better believe that it's going to be perfect every single time. And the expectation that Virgo has for themselves as the leader, they will hold up in front of everyone else. Virgo will say the words, look at me. If you have a question in this room, look at me, and you will be on point. You see what I mean? Good. If Virgo is over your water houses like this, and that's probably going to be the more challenging kind of setup, because Virgo, to categorize, classify, organize water energy, right? Virgo doesn't want the emotion to take over everything. Virgo wants the emotion to create motion. Virgo wants that motion to create momentum, To have someone just sit down and express emotion without a result is really going to piss a Virgo off. I'm sorry. You're just going to cry all day and then you're going to not make a choice. You're just going to cry all day and get it out. That's great. But what are you going to do with that? Because Virgo wants efficiency with this. Virgo wants you to have a purpose with your water energy. And sometimes the water house people or the water house situations, it can be challenging. It can be a place of conflict for someone to have the dry, cold Virgoan outlook, right? When people around them want connection. Because Virgo's going to come in from a water house and be like, let me put the word in your mouth for how you feel so that you can own it and become empowered. And then Virgo's going to tell you in a very awkward way, I saw you crying yesterday, right? And the question is, what are you going to do with that cry? And sometimes people don't want to be analyzed like that. They just want to cry. You see what I mean? But for Virgo to take charge of a water house as their spiritual gift, it could definitely be in ways like coming in as a psychologist or a psychiatrist, coming in as a counselor, coming in as a social worker, right? Where their job is to deal with very intense emotions that are happening with people. To put a Virgo in an ER, right? And to be the one to take the parents or the family relatives and say, come with me and let's go over to this room. I have information to give you about what it is that you're going through so you're not lost. You have a map and you have a way. You see what I mean? Our spiritual gifts sit in certain places in our chart. But right now we're looking at the Virgo energy and how it's going to be affected by this placement right here honestly, the Neptune and the Saturn. Are you ready to go with your spiritual gift? Oh, you're not? Well, then we have some decisions we need to make about the connections that you have. For Geminis, this is going to be a little confusing. Right now, the sun is opposite that whole situation. And so if you're standing in a place of fog, you don't quite know what it is that you're supposed to do. You just know that you're supposed to address it and do it differently this time. You need to do it differently this time, right? The sun is all up in your face. You're in a fog. This is a mystery. All of a sudden you got a spotlight in the middle of a fog, right in your eyes, right in your eyeballs. Of course, we're going to be sitting here, all of us, in a space like, okay, I see it, but I don't know how to fix it yet. Don't worry, Gemini, because look at the connection to the sun. This 4 degrees, right? Karma is going to sit still. The sun is going to move forward to the place of that 13 degree where Atropos is. Atropos is the asteroid that says, we're going to break this thing all the way down. It's going downtown. So you have a little bit. The sun won't be to that position for like a week. You have a little bit of time. So do the Gemini thing. Do your research. Sit down and make the time. Geminis can be very scattered. I understand that. I have Gemini over the ninth house. My lifestyle is like a Gemini. You should see it in here. It's terrible. And what makes a Gemini stable in that air energy is to go to their Capricorn side and get that structure up. Put that discipline into place. And I'm telling you, I have seen a Gemini become very disciplined with their career, right? With the structures they have, the routines they have. And once they can anchor in that discipline, dude, they look so glorious when they finally get there. It takes them a long, long time. Like sometimes it's into their 50s before they do it. But once they do it, it's like, damn, that's pretty awesome. You want to know where to put the structure? Go to Capricorn in your chart and look at the house. And you'll be like, okay, this is where I need to put in discipline. This is where I need to put in controls, right? I need to be consistent. I need to stay on top of it. I need to use the best of what I have and just nail that thing to the ground. get into a routine with the thing, into the routine with the thing, into the routine with the thing, until all the beautiful, glorious Gemini magical stuff comes out. Because I'm telling you, Gemini, by the time it's finished, it looks like gold. All right, I love you guys. You can hear my voice is leaving. I still need to do the tarot reading. I hope you enjoy the Gemini clip that I made this morning, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.